And why this is happening? Because of the decline in the family. So this is something which we have to keep in the back of the mind. But from our side, our saving is still very, very large. And much of our domestic activity is driven by domestic saving. This is something very important. We don't see it in newspaper, we don't see it in television. I have never hardly seen a television discussion where housewives are called and then appreciated for their contribution to economic growth. Doesn't take place. The second aspect of it we have to keep in mind is our demand is domestic demand. I have a Chinese professor with whom I used to be working. She always used to say, in China we make goods in China. But in India you make the goods for India. That's a huge difference. Because 40% of the Chinese output goes to Europe and US. Whereas our market still is very, very large. And our production is meant for our market. So we are domestic saving and domestic demand driven. Both are domestic actually. This fact we have to recognize. Because what happens in all our hurry and enthusiasm, we tend to focus on immaterial and inconsequential type of things. FDA will not come. Somebody says, no sir, you should put a coat, then FDA will come. Don't yawn, don't sneeze. So much restrictions are because we want foreign money. Sir, you must have tie also. That is another important thing. I always say in India, if you want to tell a lie, you must have a tie. Then only people will believe you. If I tell a lie, people won't believe. So we have to recognize that ours is domestic saving and domestic demand driven growth. So we should harmonize this. What are the two major challenges? Substantial portion of the growth comes from what we call, I would love you all to buy the book, India Non-Corporate, Small Businesses. Somebody asked me, why do you write books, sir? Nobody reads books these days. That's a good point actually. Unless you are my student, I can't prescribe it for you for the exam. Then he will say, sir, some out of syllabus. So that is, and if I tell no, you must read the book, he will immediately ask me, my student, page 40 to page 43 or what is that, sir? You tell me. That 3 pages only I will read. That is what last year you gave one question, you remember? So, same way. But I would recommend all of you to buy and read it. That is Uttamam. Buy and if you don't read, that is Madhyamam. But if you don't buy, it is Adamam. So, don't do that. You won't buy. Right? Because I give 50% of what I get only 10%. I get 50% of that to good social causes. Good ones, I can recognize which are the good causes, right? So, if you read that, you will find these small partnership and proprietorship businesses, they constitute 50% of our economy in our national income. They have a very huge ones. And they contribute to 80% of the savings. 40% of our domestic investment. Unswept, unsung, actually. All these kirana shops, restaurant owners, single bus operators, so many of these plumber, fitter, carpenter. Two major challenges for the new government, whatever be the nature of the new government, is how to provide adequate credit to these groups. In spite of the fact they have something like 50% of GDP, they get hardly 20 to 25% credit from banks. They are neglected. Whereas large businesses are able to get much more easier credit from financial system. So we must think of how to get, and even if they get credit, they get it at exorbitant rates. We talk about RBI rate 12%, 10%. For them it is not that rate actually. Sometimes it is 3 to 4% per month they talk about. That is one. Second is of course the issue of corruption. Massive amount of corruption is hurting these small groups. See, bigger companies can manage in terms of what is their They can have huge department of lawyers and chartered accountant to deal with all these things. But these small fellows don't have any wherewithal. See, my flower vendor who earns what? Something like 300 rupees per day. She spends in corruption to the extent of 20 to 30 rupees per day. She has to give to conduct her affair. 10% of our gross income. Huge amount of what you call problem for them. And these are the two issues which require focus, which require, having more and more rules and regulation is not going to help actually. Much better will be to relax or remove a lot of these rules and regulation. We have one Food and Adulteration Act. I recently asked somebody, how many people have died in Bangalore eating in this Darshini restaurant? Do you have statistics? Nobody has died, sir. Then why have all this tamasha? People go there, supposed to inspect, and some envelope, some amount is put and given to them. That's the thing. It doesn't help at all. So many like that we have created, and many of these rules and regulation is essentially to make some money by the government employees. And small businesses and these chota ones are the worst affected because they cannot protest, they cannot do any other. So this is one dimension of our issue. Second dimension is large businesses over a long period of time have accumulated significant amount of money abroad in various what are called tax havens, whether it is Switzerland, whether it is Singapore, whether it is Dubai or something. Our national income nearly $2 trillion US at something like 60 rupees if you take, right? It will come to something like 1 lakh, 12 lakh crores. Now, what the money kept abroad is estimated to be 1.5 trillion actually, nearly 3/4 of our national income. And this has been accumulated over a long period of time. So whichever government comes into position must seriously look into this issue. Because if you don't pay taxes, I call it as your no confidence in the government only. But if you keep your money illegally abroad, it is a no confidence on our nation. There is a lot of difference between the two. If you avoid taxes here, you are only telling that you don't respect the government regulation. But if you keep it abroad, that means you don't even have faith in our, so it is treason. So there required to be sustained effort to, and it can do miracle. It can have huge amount of impact in terms of developing our infrastructure and various other. Third thing is, when we invite foreign funds or something, now we have to recognize funds are in search of markets. Markets are not in search of funds. Huge funds are there, pension funds, mutual funds. They are all desperately looking to invest. And today I can tell you, sir, with all the deficiency what we feel, there is no country better than India for them to invest. The returns are very attractive here. It's a huge market. We don't even recognize that. 1.2 billion market is not a... So we must have those funds, but most important on our terms. That is very, very critical. We must have it on our term. I'll give you an example. China invited all this Pepsi, what is that called, Coke and other things. That time, in the 90s, they told, look, they can come, no problem, but only one important condition we are putting. Don't talk about human rights in China after this. If you go back in history, last 10 years, no US agency has written anything strongly about human rights in China. Very simple. So we will have commerce with you, but on our terms. So Walmart is insisting, okay, you come, but in your Congress you pass a resolution that the entire state of Kashmir, part of Aksai Chin, part of China, part of Afghanistan, all belongs to India. You pass a resolution. They are very powerful, I am telling, because Hillary Clinton was on the board of Walmart for 7 years. Kindly remember one important thing, every business in US, big business, controls at least 10 to 15 representatives in Congress and other. They fund it, it's a very, so it's not, so what we should also think of doing for our future in the next, in the context of the decline of these empires, we must integrate economy with security and foreign policy. All should be combined together. It should not be treated as separate departments. If you want our market access, you take it, but at certain price, which we will demand. Why am I talking about this? We all know that we are not just a market. Kindly remember, we are a very ancient civilization. We are a very old civilization, one of the oldest living civilization. So our legacy is so much important for us, and to that extent we carry actually a huge burden on our shoulders, each one of us. Let us remember, when we act something, when we do something, kindly remember, you are representing 1,000-year-old civilization. You are not representing some 25 years of your life or something. So to that extent, our responsibility is much more on the global arena compared to others. Because we have to set examples, we have to set the yardsticks, we have to set the new, in order to make a new global order, which we do. It's not very, for which we require tremendous amount of confidence and a tremendous amount of understanding of our legacy. And that is what I would leave the thought with you. Thank you, sir, for being patient.